Driving that Mustang today, I think what really impressed me, man, was out of the hole, serious torque. I mean, you know, but then you get up to the top RPM. I mean, it's pushing out to like 7,000 RPM out of a stock car.
Yeah, 7,000 RPM in a factory OEM car, that's unheard of.
And still pulling.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like you get that thing up, it's from all the way from the base, all the way to the top. It's just straight along.
Yeah, and on the old days, it was all about, you know, no replacement for displacement. Bigger engines let you get more power and torque, but nowadays there's no replacement for hardcore engineering.
Yeah, and that's been the mantra for Mustang over the years, all the way through from the beginning in the 60s, you know, almost 50 years from 64 and a half, and we've gone from somewhere around 200 horse.
Yeah, that was 1995.
Yeah.
To now we've gone 200 horse more.
Oh yeah, like what is it, 412?
412, 390 foot-pounds.
Crazy.
But with a torque curve, a torque curve that starts way at the bottom and just keeps on climbing.
Yeah.
Now that's all about technology. So there's a technology bundle in here that all works together to get you that sort of performance.
Yeah.
So we're gonna walk you through that when we come back, see the inside out.
Welcome back. All right, we got our 2011 Mustang 5.0. We're starting to take it apart. How much fun is that? Now, this is the evolution from the modular motor. Been around for a long time, and they went in 1 year, they've gone up around 100 horse.
Yeah, they went from 315 horsepower last year to 412 in a single model year. Now that's not an easy task. That's a lot of little things. So we're gonna show you a lot of that technology that was added together, and each one of those bits got you that 100 horsepower.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things was the alternator was here in the front. Well now,
very choky.
We've got our intake plenum up here. It's throttled by wire, so as it comes through the core support, got a nice smooth charge coming straight into this composite intake. It's nice and light, keeps the temperature down, which is what you want. And if I flip it over, you can just kind of see how the bottom looks.
Yeah, you've got a nice smooth entry into the plenum, and that sets up these runners to scroll around, and it's a straight shot into the cylinder heads. Now these cylinder heads are all new, and you can see a modular feature. They do a flat cut on the intake face. You know, the old wedge on, you know, a small block Chevy or whatnot, when you bolt that head on, you're actually bowing that engine enough, you can measure bore distortion, and that's sealing, it's oil consumption, and it's power.
Yeah.
So kind of a neat feature. Well, these are all new heads this year. These are a compact RFF, roller finger follower. And what that is there's a little rocker arm in here with a roller on it, and it's underneath the cam. So you got a lash adjuster on one side, and you got a valve on the other. So that's how that valve train works.
Now here's a coil pack. So usually you would have a spark plug with a wire. Well, everybody in their design is trying to get the coil as close to the engine, as close to the fire as possible. Get the direct shot.
So this is all new. It's got brand new ports in it. Huge, huge flow numbers.
Yep. Now here's a front cover. You can explain that.
Yeah, and obviously this just seals this really complex front end, but really this is sort of two, you know, high-tech 4-valve I-4s, you know, stuck together in a 90-degree V.
Yep.
Now these are solenoids. These are going to control these really complicated cam phasers. And what a cam phaser does, you can see this guy here, this pin pops in and out and actually pushes on here, and there's oil inside. Well, there's veins, and these veins will have oil on one side or the other. It can actually push the cam rotation-wise forward or backwards relative to the chain. But the oil is only controlling its position. The trick part.
This is where it gets complicated. Hold on.
Yeah, the trick part, these are cam torque actuated. As you're trying to open that valve, it's creating a load on the lobe of this cam. As the cam comes up, let's say on the roller, it's got to load one direction, so if I let this slip, you know, I can ratchet backward and advance a cam, and as the roller comes over this side, it's pushing down.
Like a one-way
I can ratchet
clutch
my
almost.
cam the other way. Exactly.
Freaky.
And it's so fast because I've got a signature all up and down these sticks. So I can go forward and backward.
It's only doing it at 7,000 RPM, and it's double there, right?
Yeah. So the neat thing is, you know, I've got control over each one of my cams. Now, any engine builder is always thinking, God, what do I want to compromise when I pick my cam?
Yep.
Well, this is awesome because there's no compromise. You can pick your cam profiles and you can move them around so you can decide when my valves are opening and closing, how much overlap do I have?
So it's like having a low-end cam and a high-end cam.
Yep.
And that's why you get such a smooth transition and such a smooth power band, which is awesome, why that thing drives like a madman.
And on top of that, even though I've got a low and a high end and a middle for power, I've got cams that I can do fuel economy and cold start for emissions. That's why it idles so smooth and gives you all that power.
Amazing. All right, well, that's just the beginning. That's just the top side. We haven't even gotten in the inside yet, so we got to take a break right now, so stay tuned. This is cool.
All right, well, as you remember, we were talking about cam phasers. So on this engine, we've got 4 cams and 4 independent phasers that we can move those cams around. So now we can do more with cams than we've ever been able to do before. So let's lay out a couple of load profiles. So we've got an exhaust cam profile and an intake cam profile relative to crank angle. Now normally we talk about lift and duration, and then we get a little bit more, we talk about lobe separation. That kind of gives us a general idea of the overlap, and the duration and lift of these cams, what kind of performance we're going to get, and characteristics, whether it's big and lopey, it's kind of torquey for an RV, or high RPM power maker. Well, there's 3 things when we look in the OEM that really define a cam that helps us out, and that's intake valve closing. So intake valve closing, obviously I've pulled my fresh air in. When do I shut that valve before I start compression? Well, that's going to be trapping. Now trapping, is how much volume I can get in there. That's how much power I can make, and it's going to change based on RPM. So if I've got tuning, like an intake tuning, I might have a wavelength that tunes at a certain RPM and not at another, plus I've got speed of the engine changing where my speed of sound isn't. So I really want to move this around. Now on the other side, I've got exhaust valve opening. So that's how much work I can extract out of all that compression and ignition. So when I open that valve again, I'm either going to open it too early, bleed out some of that charge, or I'm going to wait a little bit too long, and now I got to push it out versus just opening the valve and letting a lot of pressure escape. So I've got something in the middle here. This is overlap. Now overlap is kind of tricky. On a production engine, if I look at my cylinder here, I've got intake and exhaust. On the intake side, I've got about an atmosphere because, that's what's out here. So that's the pressure I can push in here. Well, on the opposite end, at the tailpipe, I've got atmosphere too. But all along this way, I've got all these restrictions, catalytic converters, mufflers, bends, and tubing. So this is going to be a lot higher to try to push out. So it might be 1.2, 1.5 times atmosphere. So if I've got overlap, I'm actually going to be pushing exhaust back into the cylinder, and I'll push it up in my intake track just in time to breathe it back in. Well, I can't make any power that way. So overlap on a production engine is very difficult. So we usually got to run smaller duration cams and close that off. What's really neat, when you've got phasers, you can control all this stuff, because at different times, different speeds, you're going to have different dynamics going on and different pressures. And I want to be able to take advantage of that. So it's really cool. Ford gave us the inside scoop. This is their wide open throttle cam strategy. So as we walk through this, we can look at different RPMs, we can look at this lobe separation angle, and we can look down here at the overlap. And watch how this thing moves around. It moves around a lot. So as we go through the speed, I can start to build a lot of overlap. And as I get a little higher in speed, I might not be as tolerant. I'm going to dial that overlap out. And then this feature down here, intake valve closing or trapping, it's going to dominate. So as I move that guy along, that guy's moving all over. So if I back and forth, you can see how much dynamics you're going to have in your cam motion. Well, this is also cool. Check this out. This is their exhaust system. If we check out their tubular header, this is a new thing. They were able to take the odd firing of a V8 engine on a bank, and we talked about this on our Camaro show. On one bank, you're going to have a 90, a 180, and a 270-degree separation between firings on a bank. Well, they were able to pair these, and with a lot of modeling, this is a visualization of what's going on inside that header. Now, these are paired so that the connected cylinders are very immune to each other's blowdown. So as this guy blows down, and maybe some of this red from one cylinder starts to come up into this side, it doesn't care. It's not an overlap. Whereas if this cylinder was connected to the green one, that might be an overlap. Now I've got exhaust pushing back up into adjacent cylinder. It's going to rob me of power. It's going to make me knock limited. So there's a whole lot of optimization going on here. Now up to about this point in the exhaust, man, I've got everything about as tuned as I can get. It's all working like this big complicated system. But from here back, now I can start looking at back pressure. I can reduce back pressure, I can get better sound quality, I can make it sound meaty, and I can make it look awesome too.